What's up, everybody? John Hoover from The Franchise, and you're on another episode of The Recap, my weekly roundup of the week that was covering college football for 107.7 The Franchise in Oklahoma City, 107.9 The Franchise Tulsa, TheFranchiseOK.com, SportingNews.com, and lots more. The first 3 weeks of the college football season were incredibly busy for me, but I think I just had a week that topped them all. So I started another new podcast this week, and this one's really unique. I'm now the host of the Locked On Sooners podcast, which is part of the Locked On Podcast Network. I do a 30-minute podcast every day, Monday through Friday, on nothing but Oklahoma football and a little basketball. And if you guys know how busy I am already covering OU football, OSU football, Tulsa football, and whatever else, then you might ask yourself, Hoover, what the hell are you doing adding another podcast? I know, right? Another podcast? Oh, that's right. I also co-host the Franchise Inside OU podcast with Rufus Alexander and Brady Trantham. We run that thing back 3 times a week, after the game, before the game, and after Lincoln Riley's Monday press conference. So you know what? I've got a suggestion for you. If you listen to podcasts and you like OU football, I'm your guy. So after I shot the recap last week, I got in the car and I drove to Austin, Texas. It's about a 7-hour drive from my house to DKR, Darrell K. Royal Texas Memorial Stadium. And when I got there, I had a sit-down interview, about an hour-long interview with the athletic director at University of Texas, Chris Del Conte. I can't give away too much because we're holding some stuff back for that story in the next couple of weeks, but I can tell you that on a Friday before a game day, that was one of the best interviews I've ever had. Very cool and gracious of Chris to fit me into a busy Friday schedule on a super busy weekend, recruiting weekend that the Longhorns had recruits. I saw his schedule. He showed me his calendar. I was jammed in with about 11 other people. Then Saturday morning, I get up and I head back to the 40 acres, back to the stadium for Oklahoma State at Texas. What a way to start Big 12 play for both teams. Texas goes on to win the game 36-30, spoiler alert, but they had to recover an onside kick to be able to pull that one out. Sam Ehlinger had another big game for Texas. I think he's really emerged as a Heisman Trophy contender. But this game should have been an Oklahoma State win, and I'll tell you why. Cowboys either got inside the red zone or the 5-yard line 3 different times. You know what they came away with on those 3 possessions? 3 points. They had to settle for a field goal on a 4th and 1. They went for it on another 4th and 1 and failed. And then they tried to execute some really just poorly conceived, goofy fake field goal that did not result in any points. It was absolutely blown up, obliterated by Texas. And the Cowboys walk away feeling like they left something on the field there. They should have won that game. Mike Gundy said afterwards they needed to score touchdowns and not field goals.
So much of the game now is played inside the 15-yard line, so we need to be able to need to be more productive in scoring touchdowns and not kicking field goals, and obviously it changes the outcome.
But I wrote at TheFranchiseOK.com and Sporting News that Oklahoma State just got bullied by Texas in the trenches on the game's most important downs. Gundy said he didn't even consider a quarterback sneak. You know, like the Bush push, like USC did at Notre Dame, where the quarterback leans into the end zone and the 2 running backs behind him kind of push him into the end zone. That's legal now. You can do that. Mike Gundy said he didn't even consider it. I said the exact same thing before the play was snapped, and then I watched the game back. Kirk Herbstreit said the same thing.
We got to improve when we get down in there and find ways to score.
How do you do that, Mike? The 3rd and 1 handoff, it was kind of a slow developing play. I guess it was 4th and 1. Slow developing play. They stuffed it, and then you got a 3rd and 1 on the other end in the 4th quarter. How do you get better? How do you get more productive? How do you get those guys?
Just base stuff. That's the same play we run for Tulsa for a touchdown. Same play we ran all year long. I mean, we just got to do a better job. We got to give up a little penetration. Got to do a better job sealing the penetration.
Were you thinking at all of a quarterback sneak? That was a popular opinion on social media. Why didn't Oklahoma State?
I think I give a rat's ass about social media.
Did you consider it though?
No.
Anyway, after the game, after all my stories were filed, after all my videos were posted, I drove back through the night to Tulsa, Oklahoma. In retrospect, probably not the best idea. Pulled into the driveway about 9 a.m. But I was back at it later in the afternoon. Monday was a ton of fun as well. Drove to Norman for Lincoln Riley's press conference, got there early, and I wrote about how this week's Big 12 opener against Texas Tech, it's 11 a.m. kickoff tomorrow morning, how that is going to be kind of an acid test for what we think we've seen improvements out of the OU defense. If we've really seen them, if they're really there, they'll show up tomorrow against Texas Tech.
You know, new challenges, certainly. You're going to play. We've played some outstanding individual players up to this point. I think we're going to play more just outstanding overall units as we go forward. And, Other thing I would say too is just the quality of skill position players that you're getting ready to see throughout this league. Where there's a lot of the best skill position players in the country, are on our schedule here in the next, whatever it is, 8-10 weeks.
Based on what you've seen then the first 3 weeks of the season in the open date, are you satisfied with where that defense is?
Not satisfied, but excited, encouraged, excited. I think it has shown a lot of the positive signs that I would have hoped that we would have shown at this point. So excited about where we can go, but we've got to continue on an upward trajectory, and we just can't let anything within our control stop that momentum. We've got some momentum there. We've got to keep it, and we've just got to keep building because, you're right, the better, worse, whatever, the challenges are going to be different. They're going to be different each week. We know that playing in this league.
You can find that column at thefranchiseok.com. I said all along, I think Oklahoma's defense is better. I'm sure they're not going to get the same look on Saturday morning with Alan Bowman out of the game, the Texas Tech starting quarterback, that they would have gotten if Bowman was playing. But Bowman's out with a shoulder injury, left shoulder, non-throwing shoulder, and backup Jet Duffy, who came off the bench last year in Lubbock. Bowman cooked the Sooners defense in the first half, but suffered a collapsed lung. Took a hit on the sideline from Curtis Bolton, couldn't go back in the game. Jet Duffy comes in the game. Texas Tech falls behind, but he nearly rallies them all the way back. Duffy can really run the football, and he's like a 67, 68% passer. But that Texas Tech offense just isn't the same without one of the best quarterbacks in the Big 12 pulling the strings. Anyway, back to the podcast. It's called Locked On Sooners, okay? It's not brand new, but it's a reboot from a podcast that's been dormant for a few months. I upload a new one every day, so it's really no big deal because when my radio show, daily radio show on the franchise was canceled, the Franchise Drive, remember? I got a message from David Locke, the play-by-play voice of the Utah Jazz. David Locke owns and operates the Locked On Podcast Network. Locked On has a daily podcast from every NFL team, every NBA team, every MLB team, and it has a quickly growing network of college teams. It's a lot of work, but it's a lot of fun too. It's something that I've really always wanted. My own show where I talk about the one thing that I've covered more than anything else. That's OU football. I don't have to keep up with all the NBA free agency moves or all the rule changes in the National Football League if I don't want to. All I've got to do is focus in on the Sooners, focus in on Lincoln Riley's team, the program there at OU. It's pretty cool. And don't worry, I'm still doing everything else I was before. I've just kind of added a podcast to the to-do list every day. On that podcast, and of course at thefranchiseok.com, you will find the Friday Ask Hoover. Now what's Ask Hoover, you say? Well, it's a weekly Friday mailbag, college football oriented, but I take a lot of questions. Today I got a question about the best restaurants in Tulsa. Last week I think I got a question about the beard. One thing I've found out is that you people love you some college football. There's some passionate fans out there, and they love the interaction. It's fun stuff, and I highly recommend reading it. You can find it at thefranchiseok.com. And if you want to get in on it, I strongly encourage it. It's a whole lot of fun. Find me on Twitter at John E. Hoover and tweet me your question. It could be college football or whatever you got. If I don't know the answer, I'll look it up, and if I can't look it up, I'll tell you I don't know. But hit me with the hashtag Ask Hoover. I answer every question on the blog, thefranchiseok.com. I answer one question on the Locked On podcast on Friday, which is already uploaded today, and I answer another question right here on the recap. This week's question comes from Silverback Mac, or Strollin H2O on Twitter. He asks a question in regard to the Oklahoma State-Texas game. He says, "It is interesting that the new OC, Sean Gleason, was hired for his innovation. The question that could be asked is if Gundy vetoed the innovation." In other words, a very bland game plan, especially in those short yardage plays I was telling you about. For the Texas game, for the Texas Longhorns, you're going to go down to Austin and have that game plan? Yeah, I didn't really see it. I thought some of the innovation should have taken place closer to the goal line in 3rd and 1, 4th and 1 situations. Instead, Chuba Hubbard got the football, basically running right up the middle or off tackle. Very unimaginative, very safe plays. This might have been a situation where Mike Gundy was very kind of smitten with Chuba Hubbard's statistics over the course of the first 3 games. He said, that's the same touchdown we ran against Tulsa, and it worked. It is? Against Tulsa? And you're going to do it against Texas? And you're going to think it's going to work the same against Texas that it did against Tulsa? That was the disappointing part, I know, for a lot of Oklahoma State fans. It's Friday, so looking forward to being back in Norman tomorrow. Rooster Kick, 11 a.m., OU versus Texas Tech. It's the Big 12 Conference opener. The game itself, if you're not going, is on Fox. I'll be there, and I'll post a post-game reaction video. I'll also post here on the YouTube channel post-game interviews with Lincoln Riley, Alex Grinch, Jalen Hurts, and as many players as we can get. Don't forget to download, listen, share, rate, comment, all that good stuff to my new podcast, Locked On Sooners, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. And don't forget the other podcast, Inside OU, put on by The Franchise. If you want to go check it out, thefranchiseok.com has all the links. I promise you, it's the only podcast on OU football you're going to find that has a former player, Rufus Alexander, has an old-time media dude like me, John Hoover, and has the perspective of a younger fan, Brady Trantham. We give you everything on the Inside OU podcast. Find it on iTunes, Spotify, Google, SoundCloud, Stitcher, or wherever you get your podcasts. You'll see me right here again next Friday on The Recap. Thanks for watching. See you guys.